again. Just got a few stragglers coming in, so we'll begin right now. Welcome back, everyone. We are enormously pleased to welcome you to this very special panel on accreditation this morning. The panel includes two of our own leaders whom you know well. Dr. Maria Woodside-Oriaki, our Vice President, Academic Affairs and Provost, a mathematician by profession, and a talented academic leader who will share the panel with our guests. And Dr. Danny Davis, our Accreditation Liaison Officer and AVP Institutional Strengthening, a chemist by profession, and our steady guide in this process over the past 18 months, who will act as moderator. I'm honored to introduce our international guests, two of whom, Dr. Cardell and Dr. McPhee, have been working intensely with us on our accreditation application readiness project for the past year or more. And one guest, Dr. Belle Whelan, who I understand actually had to break her vacation time and made a very special effort to be with us today. I thank them on our behalf and look forward to their insights, and I'll tell you a little bit about them. Dr. Cheryl Cardell is a native of Canada and earned her PhD in special education from the University of North Texas. She was credentialed for 30 years as a licensed professional counselor in the state of Texas. Dr. Cardell spent 18 years at the University of Texas, Arlington, in various roles in the areas of student affairs and academic affairs. During the last 6 years of service at the University of Texas, Dr. Cardell served as Assistant Vice President for Academic Affairs with oversight responsibility for 10 departments. In 2006, Dr. Cardell transitioned to a career with the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, now known to all of us as SACS-COC, one of 6 regional organizations authorized by the U.S. Department of Education to accredit institutions in the 11 states that comprise the Southeastern region. As the vice president with SACS until June 30th, 2017, her work afforded her the opportunity to participate in the development of both regional and national quality enhancement initiatives and policies affecting higher education. In her role, Dr. Cardell worked directly with institutional leadership teams who were at various stages of the accreditation process, as we are. The institutions range from public research, extensive, private comprehensive, private liberal arts, standalone health science centers, community colleges, and schools in the for-profit sector. Dr. Sidney McPhee has been the president of Middle Tennessee State University since 2001. Dr. McPhee, I have a sense that you might have a longevity record as an American university president. Is that correct? Would I be correct? During which time the university has been successful in completing almost $1.5 billion in improvements in academic, athletic, and campus facilities. Mr. McPhee earned a doctorate in applied behavioral sciences and education from Oklahoma State University. As an academician, his work has appeared in numerous local, national, and international professional journals. Dr. McPhee was recently elected a 3rd term on the NCAA Division I Board of Directors, representing Conference USA, and was named Outstanding American University President of 2002 by the American Football Foundation. In 2003, he was listed by National Post Business Magazine as one of Tennessee's 100 most powerful individuals, and in 2004, he was ranked by Business Tennessee magazine as one of the state's top 50 most powerful African Americans. Also, President McPhee was named Omega Citizen of the Year by the Pi Gamma chapter of Omega Psi Phi fraternity. Served a 6-year term on the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, Commission on Colleges, Board of Trustees, served on accreditation review teams for SAC-COC, including an international accreditation review at the University of Peru. We are fortunate to also be joined by Dr. Belle Whelan. Dr. Whelan currently serves as the president of the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, Commission on Colleges, and is the first African American and the first woman ever to serve in this capacity. Her career spans over 40 years, she doesn't look it, and includes roles of faculty member, chief student services officer, campus provost, college president, and secretary of education. In several of those roles, she was the first African American and/or woman to take on that role. Dr. Whelan received her doctorate from the University of Texas at Austin in educational administration with a special concentration in community college leadership. She has received numerous awards and recognition, including 6 honorary degrees. She holds and has held membership in numerous local, state, and national organizations, including Rotary International, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, the American College Testing Board of Directors, American Association of Community Colleges Board of Directors, the President's Roundtable of the National Council on Black American Affairs, and the National Student Clearinghouse Board of Directors, and many, many others. Dr. Whelan attributes her success, and this will be an inspiration to us, to hard work, endurance, tenacity, and being in the right place at the right time. She recognizes that prayer and support from family and friends make anything possible. I am honored to invite Dr. Whelan to the podium for her introductory remarks and invite Dr. Davis to follow up as moderator for what I hope will be a most exciting session. Thank you.
I can't think of a better place to spend my vacation than Nassau, Bahamas. I mean, really, come on. I'm back. I was here February of last year trying to get you all motivated and moving, and it worked. You all have been working your buns off. And I am so proud of the progress that you've made so far. I know that Dr. Cardell has been whooping you into shape because she whooped me into shape. She was my first hire when I got to the commission. And I know Dr. McPhee is working you to death because he worked me to death when he was on my board. So I know that they've not let up, and I'm glad that they haven't, because this is certainly a process that is worth all of your energy and hard work. It doesn't feel that way now. I know it feels onerous and burdensome, but I promise you that the end result is well worth it. One of the questions that I often get asked is, why in the world would international institutions want to be accredited by an agency in the United States? Well, part of that is because we want to make sure that you're able to tout to the world that you are a high-quality institution. That's what accreditation does. It comes in and monitors the quality of the things that you do, the services that you provide, the curriculum that you offer, the quality of the people who are here working in every particular position, and nobody then can question whether it's worth attending your institution. It also will help with transfer. There are a lot of folks like me who would love to come to the Bahamas for their educational opportunities. I don't want any more education. I'm educated out, I think. But to come to the Bahamas and to be able to enjoy the cultural that you all have here, as well as the academic offerings, trust me, there are a lot of folks who would love that opportunity. And as an accredited institution, it guarantees them more often than not that the credits that they earn here could be transferred someplace else. It also makes life easier for students here who want to transfer to one of our institutions, especially in graduate school. So there's a lot of benefit to this. this. The first one is that it gives you an opportunity to do a self-assessment to see where you shine, because you all shine in a lot of ways that I'm hopeful you have discovered now that you hadn't thought about before. But it also gives you an opportunity to see those areas on which you need to work. Every institution we have, and we have 781 member institutions, goes through a similar process to this every 10 years. They did it when they first joined us. We have an institution in Mexico that we accredit that was accredited in 1962, before many of our domestic institutions were, and they have continued to go through this process of re-energizing and re-evaluating and making changes to ensure that what they offer are appropriate for the students. So I'm excited that you've made the progress that you have. I know that there's still work to be done, but I have all the faith in the world, having watched what you've done just in these 18 months, of seeing what's going to happen in the next. So hang in there. Thank you for allowing me to spend some more time back here in this wonderful place, and I look forward to answering any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Dr. Whelan. And I'll be the first to say good afternoon to everybody today. It's now after 12. So I trust there's some mics out there. The lights don't allow me to see too well. And on a good day, I don't see too well anyhow, so there you go. So we'll begin with some questions. Are there mics in the aisles? Yes, excellent. So who's our lucky winner to start off with our questions today? And your question can be directed in general, or it can be directed to any member of the panel sitting here today. They're all more than qualified to provide a good answer. Now, I thought someone was approaching the mic. Okay, I'll get it started first. Just as a housekeeping question, can we have a microphone for the stage, please, so that, oh, we do have one. Look at that. I didn't have one in my chair. I guess that this is mine here. So I'll begin with, let's not get distracted. So I'll begin with a question just to see if we can get things started then. What can we expect during the site visit, and does the campus shut down during that visit? Okay, so Dr. Cardell, you take that? Good.
Well, the good news is campus does not shut down. What you can expect on the visit is somewhere around 5 committee members and a SAC-COC vice president who will accompany the committee. There'll be a chair and other folks who are folks like yourself. They'll come from institutions that are very similar to this institution. Probably there'll be faculty member or provost, someone of that nature, maybe 2 of those folks. There could be a CFO, there could be I think a CEO typically goes on the initial the candidacy visit. So you can expect about 5, 6 people will be on your campus. Normally, they will have some prepared questions and interviews that you will know about in advance. They won't typically, roam loose on the campus and come to your office, and they could, but typically it's mostly structured with interviews to the folks. They want to verify the information that they have reviewed in your application information, and so that's typically the primary focus. But yes, they will look around campus.
They may also meet. Hello. I'm a former cheerleader, so I can be heard. We'll play with them up here. They may stop anybody walking on the campus and ask them about accreditation and if you know what it is. One of the reasons that we don't want you to shut down is because they're coming to see whether you do what you told us in the report that you do. And they can't do that if nobody's here. So forget vacations, sick leave don't plan that one, please. Nobody should get sick. I know you're sick and tired already of all this, but don't get sick otherwise. But they want to know what's going on. They may stop in a classroom to see, the instruction that's going on. They'll stop in a lab to see what's going on. They will stop students and ask them why they came here and what is it they like about it and what don't they like about it. It is that opportunity for them to, like Cheryl said, validate what you said on paper, but also just to check and make sure that the paper doesn't say one thing and you all are actually doing something else.
And just to add to that, having served on a number of review committees as a CEO, just to build on Dr. Whelan's point, it is important that the campus be engaged and involved and know what's going on with accreditation. Because I have, and other team members being on the campus, have just randomly stopped by and questioned individuals about accreditation, what they know about it. And a few months ago when we were on this campus, I did kind of a pre-campus view with Dr. Davis, and I went to the SGA office,
Student Union
and
Building.
the Student Union Building, and the president of SGA was there, and I walked up and introduced myself, and I said, we're here working with the university about accreditation. You know anything about accreditation? And sure enough, she flipped off everything that she knew. It was quite impressive. It's important that the committee get a sense that this was not something done by a small group of individuals or leaders, that this has been a campus-wide knowledge and engagement. And I think from my view, the last year and a half working with you all, I think that that will be demonstrated. But make sure that your colleagues are aware, department chairs, deans, discussion in your meetings, keeping them informed, because you never know when a reviewer will come up to any of the individuals and ask them about the accreditation process at the institution.
I've been on one campus visit where in the ladies' room stall there was a flyer taped on the inside that says, what is accreditation, and stuff like that. I'm not suggesting you do that, but because there's no way you can get to every student and perhaps every staff member to fill them in, but at least there's an opportunity for them to have heard the word, and kind of understand what the process was.
Okay, thank you. And I would also add that during that, when we had the walkabout at the Oaksfield with Dr. McPhee and Dr. Cardell, the engagement with the students in the SGA, we should all be proud of ourselves. They handled themselves to the T, just general discussions on how they carried themselves with the conversation with two strangers just approaching them. It was really, really heartwarming for me that they really represented us very well. All right, so we are doing something to help our students.
And Dr. Davis, I would compliment, I think it would be appropriate to compliment the team, the president, you, and all those engaged, because some of you know that I've been an old penny. I've been around for a while. And I do remember in 2016 being on this stage talking about accreditation. How many of you remember that? And you remember me? And so when when we look now at what has happened in the last 18 months, compare with 2016, 2017, 18, the tremendous progress that has been made, and Dr. Cardell and I have not minced words when we saw where improvement needs to occur. I'm telling you, it's a difference between night and day. So, give yourselves a pat, not too hard, because you still got a few hurdles to. But I do want to make that point that you all have made tremendous, tremendous progress. And I think Dr. Whelan mentioned that based on when she was here in February of last year to now. So kudos to you all.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Davis, I just want to make sure and I get onto that point of progress being made. I think a lot of the progress that has been made over the last 18 months is due to the leadership of President Janine Hodder. I think she deserves a real round of applause. Because so much had been said that what we could not do. And President Hodder came in here and said, look, we can do this. I believe in you. How can we organize? What resources do we need to put in which places in order to get things done? And you've seen this really been pulled together, whether it's been in academics, whether it's been in student affairs, in technology, in infrastructure or buildings. Lots have been pumped in, and it's due to our current leadership and the work that every person in this room also is doing to get us to this stage.
Okay, thank you. Oh, okay, so we do have a question from the floor. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Afternoon. Good morning. Well, the mic is it's on me, but it's not on.
Good morning. My name is Erin Brown. I am the Disability and Compliance Officer and Head of Department for the Office of Disabilities and Compliance. And I am responsible for not only Oaksfield, but also UB North. And it is a focus of our registered students with disabilities, but it also provides support for our administration, faculty, and staff with disabilities. And I want to add to Dr. Oriaki's sentiments when it speaks to, yes, we can do this. And from my area of disabilities and compliance, my question is, how will the SACS accreditation provide us with not only the guidelines, the infrastructure, but possibly funding opportunities to transition into inclusive education? Access is a human right, and it's not just about infrastructure. It's also about hiring or acknowledging and supporting our disabled professors, our faculty, staff, and administration. It's about ensuring that we are having access to the technology and we are implementing it within our course integrity, our requirements, our policies. It is also ensuring that the students' engagement and community engagement is not only powerful and insightful, but it then drives them to come to the premier institution in the Bahamas as a disabled student proudly. And so if you can share with us how this accreditation will not only boost our recognition, but gives us the ability to truly implement access, inclusion, and opportunities for all of our learners within our space.
The commission is not going to be able to provide any funding opportunities for you, but what happens is when the people who are coming to visit on the team are in similar positions here, and while there may not be someone from disability services, there will be someone from student support services, in which most of our institutions have that office. And so you're getting free consultation from those folks. So if you have questions about how do you fund this at your institution, or what are the resources available, ask them and they'll be glad to share that information, or else put you in touch with someone who can do that. I don't know if the University of the Bahamas is, for what you would be eligible for funding from any place in the United States. I don't think that you'd be eligible for anything from our federal government funding, but there are plenty of organizations that have funding that would be made available to you, and it's just a matter of putting you in touch with them. I was on Lumina Foundation Board, for example. They fund a lot of stuff outside of the United States, and so these are people who would have that knowledge and could share that information with you, but the commission itself, unfortunately, is not going to have that information for you. Okay.
The only thing I'll add to that, and she's absolutely right, though, the reviewer from Student Affairs, not just disability students, but the university has a mission to serve all of its students. And if there is information or perception that somehow the university is failing in that regard, that could be an issue of compliance. So it's the fact that you all have an office is a good start. The fact that you are aware of those needs. No one expects an institution to be perfect. You know, I'm from a campus of 21,000 students. We have an Office of Disability, and I'm sure they can use additional resources. So no one is going to expect perfection, but you want to make sure, though, that there isn't the image and or information coming out that a group of students or a segment of your student population is not being served in order for them to accomplish their educational goals.
You can also go to our website currently under position statements and see our statement on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it will give you examples of things that our institutions are doing in that area. That may be a good place to start.
Great question.
Thank you. So we have a question over here to my left. You're right. Go ahead, please. No volume. Okay.
She's got one.
Fanny, give it. Yeah, that's excellent.
You can put it up in that. Oh, no, you got it. I thought you were a tech guy. You can put it right back up there. I'll take this one. Daniel Thompson. I'm president of the Union of Tertiary Educators of the Bahamas, which is the faculty union. And my comment is perhaps more a comment and probably for the sake of SACS, that we recognize that SACS does not recognize or is not engaged in unions accreditation. But what I'd like to say is that our experience here at the University of the Bahamas perhaps is a good testimony of how, notwithstanding our non-existence in your site, that it was through many of the initiatives that the academic affairs and administration was able to engage happened because of the underpinning and support of a good labor relations and the support of UTEB in particular. And I draw specific reference to when it dealt with the issue of credentialing. It was only because, at least it was very much dependent on UTEB's engagement with academic affairs to deal with the human side, that when faculty approach and issues arise, we were there to provide that assurance and that protection as their terms and conditions of employment defender. And so we had a fairly smooth process, and UTEB worked hand in hand with academia, the academics area, to ensure that this happened. So notwithstanding your disregard to unions' engagement, that it was only because of our support that many of the initiatives that have happened only were able to happen without disruption because of the support and understanding faculty and their bargaining agent, UTEB. Thank you.
SACS-COC does not recognize unions. It's that our 11 states are all right-to-work states. So our states don't recognize it. But what we will do is, whatever the process is in which you all were engaged, we will come in and look at that process and make sure you followed the process. So if you are set up as a union, we would look at the union bylaws and how they interact with the college bylaws and stuff like that. So you're not getting off the hook just because you're unionized, okay? I'm excited to know that the faculty is working as closely as it has with the administration, because that doesn't happen in a lot of my institutions that are not unionized. Because they are. Okay, so I'm very pleased with that. Florida has faculty unions, and they also work closely with their administration, so we're not unfamiliar with them. And as a matter of fact, there would probably be someone on your visiting committee from Florida, since you do have an active a faculty union, because they would have that experience. So it all works together, and I'm excited. You did mention faculty credentials, and I do want to make sure that you realize that in 2002, which was 22 years ago, we got rid of our standard that said you had to have a master's degree and 18 graduate hours in whatever you were teaching. We still have institutions that use, yeah, just listen. We no longer have that as a requirement. That used to be a requirement. No faculty member could teach a class unless they had a master's degree and 18 graduate hours in what they were teaching. About 2002 is when IT came along, and there was no master's degree or 18 graduate hours in IT, and yet we needed somebody to teach it. You could take computer science, but that's not IT. That's a very different area. And so our membership said, you know, rather than having that etched in stone master's and 18 graduate hours, we're leaving it up to the institution to justify.
I think that's a great way for me to segue into here.
Yeah. Listen. We leave it up to the institution and their policy to define how they determine faculty credentials. We have institutions that still have the master's and 18 graduate hours. It's an easy way to assess the qualifications of faculty, and you have a better feel of what the faculty member really knows having learned it. But we no longer require that. That's an institutional choice.
So let me respond to that. So first of all, Mr. Thompson came up and spoke about the relationship that UTEP had with the administration and how we have worked together. And it is through that relationship that we have gone through so much of the processes of accreditation. Like, for instance, putting together those assessment reports for every single program. UTEP has been really instrumental in supporting the Office of Academic Affairs and having that done. Also, UTEP has been supportive as the policy of the University of the Bahamas that says that faculty must have 18 graduate credit hours in their discipline. Dr. Bell-Whelan says SACS does not really require, but it is the University of the Bahamas' policy.
And that's what the committee will come to see. That's the point. If that's what your policy is, then we're expecting you to follow that policy.
And so we're grateful for UTEP in supporting the policy of 18 graduate credits. And we're so excited that this fall semester, every single person that is going to be within our classroom space is credentialed according to the University of the Bahamas' policy.
I do think I need to add to this. We're going through our reaffirmation next year, actually our third reaffirmation, and this is really an important point, and I'm glad we're having this discussion. Let me give you a specific example. MTSU has a number of applied programs. We have a world-class recording industry and media and entertainment college. And so we do hire professors who have won Grammys in our songwriting program. They may have a bachelor's degree. For SACS, while they don't require it, a reviewer will look at what that person brings in terms of his or her experience. For example, if a person have a degree in, let's say, agriculture, and they're teaching recording industry, that ain't gonna fly. And so you need to make sure you put this in perspective. It isn't that anybody can teach anything at any time. If that is a message, or if that is picked up by a reviewer, the university will be out of compliance. So you need to keep that really in mind. And as she said, you have to demonstrate and explain to that reviewer why this individual is teaching that course without a master's or 18 hours in the master's area. So I just thought that needed Dr. Oriaki to actually add that to make sure that folks don't go away thinking that anybody can teach anytime, anywhere. That's not going to cut it.
Dr. McPhee, and you're so correct. As we sat down with individual faculty members to discuss qualifications, the first thing we said is, do you have the 18 credit hours? Can you show me that? Or do you have a graduate degree in that area? If the person said no, so we asked then, can you show us or can you give example of experiences that you have? I recall, if I may say, in one area, culinary, where somebody said, well, I served as an executive chef in one of the major hotels in charge of a group of people for more than 15 years. And we go, now that shows that you have been credentialed outside of these 18 credit hours. So we didn't just say, oh, 18 credit hours. We're like, show me this on your transcript or your graduate degree on this, or give me evidence that I can produce to the persons coming here that proves that you are truly credentialed in this area.
So we have yet another speaker to my left. Please introduce yourself and present your question, please.
Hi, my name's Curtis. I'm new at UB, Faculty for the Arts, and I had the task of my last position to work with SAC-COC specifically on this qualifications issue. And I guess my question is both to SAC-COC and also to the administration. If there were deemed a deficit in the qualifications, would there be a humane way to help that faculty member kind of get back up to speed so that the university could be in compliance?
So thank you, Dr. Curtis. And so Dr. Curtis is one of those new faculty members who is just joining us. This is day 2 or day 2. That's right, day 2. So yes, so you would not have been familiar with what's been happening. What we've done is, once again, thanking the union, has sat down with full-time faculty and had a discussion to talk about their credentials. And we found incidences where we did not think that the qualifications or the credentials presented would stand up to the SAC-COC standards and the policies of the institution. We have done a number of things. We have we've offered people, how can we assist you with further education? That was one thing that we've done. The second thing we've done is say, well, you may not be credentialed in mathematics, but we do note that you're now you're fully credentialed in psychology. We'll transfer you to the psychology department. Then another thing that we have stated was that, okay, you're not credentialed, but we've found that over the years, your strong point has been really with helping students, with ensuring their success, with advisement. Can we actually put you in this area? So we've been working with persons to determine what best to do for you. One of the great things that has happened at the University of the Bahamas is no faculty, not one, has been terminated, or even the suggestion of termination for not having the credentials. And not only did we not terminate people, we didn't even, if your salary was $90,000, it remains $90,000. We didn't touch anyone's salary, we didn't touch anyone's job. We just tried to facilitate their advancement in that area or putting them in other areas that they would be more suitable for.
Okay.
Thank you. My
Thank you.
question is actually for Dr. Whelan. You indicated that...
Who are you?
Oh, sorry. My name is Eresia
What-
Hepburn. My question is for Dr. Whelan. You said that college in Mexico was accredited by SACS. Were they able to get any federal funding for research or other projects through the accreditation process, saying that they were international? And is it possible, if you partner with another college that is accredited, that we'd be able to access federal funding?
The latter is more likely than the former, and I don't know, to answer your question.
I can answer the second part of that because we do have a number of partnership with international universities in which we have been able to secure grants. For an example, we have a major lab operation initiative on traditional Chinese medicine, and we partner with 2 Chinese universities with regards to that have medicinal plant operation. And we receive significant grants from National Science Foundation for that project with international organizations. So Dr. Whelan is right. The second part is yet, but just applying because you're a SACS to a federal grant, you have to really be a United States, a U.S. citizen institution. But grants, possible, yes.
Okay, thank you. I see I get no question from either side of the room, and we're actually also approaching, Dr. Ariake says we have until 12:30, and it is now 12:34. So I'm going to sneak in one last question for the day. If there's not another last question from the floor, going once, gone. All right.
Yeah, we start 1:45, so we have another 15 minutes.
Another 15 minutes it
we
is.
are glutton for punishment, so punish us.
No problem. We shall continue. So,
So just a quick question.
Before you raise your question, Mr. Thompson, I'll ask you, please, just wait for us to acknowledge you for the question, identify yourself, and then proceed with the question so that we could demonstrate some order and whatever. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Am I acknowledged?
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you. A question some of my colleagues were concerned about. What happens if we fail the process?
What happens if you fail the process? You don't fail the process. Let me talk about it a little bit. You are working on what we call the compliance certification. For those of you who have been in the business as long as I have, we used to call that the self-study, okay, where you take all of our standards and document how you comply with it. Because you're an applicant institution, we have a staff member who will read your application, every letter, every word, every sentence, every paragraph, and will send you back a report that tells you, yes, this looks like you're in compliance, no, this one doesn't demonstrate you're in compliance, or I can't figure out whether you're in compliance or not. That will come back to the president, and you all will work to clarify any of those, if there are some of those. Because you've got 2 great experts over here, I'm not anticipating there are going to be a lot of non-compliance issues.
Pressure.
So, I mean, because they're experienced people and know, what our expectations, our board's expectations are. So once you get that report and everything's good, it will go to the board. The board will either grant a candidacy committee visit, or I can, as president, grant one of those, depending on what time of year. Our board only meets twice a year, once in December and once in June. So depending on the expeditiousness of this committee, rather than you wait until the next meeting, I can approve a committee to come in and visit. While the application is being read, you all still have standards to which you're going to have to reply, because in the compliance certification, all of the standards for an applicant institution are not required in the application. But before you get to candidacy, full membership, you're going to have to reply to them. One of them, for example, is the Quality Enhancement Plan. This is the project that we ask all of our institutions to engage that show how you're helping students learn. And we ask you to identify a particular project that you might use to do that. One of my favorite examples of a successful QEP is from a community college in Mississippi. Mississippi is, in our region, the lowest performing on every index that you have. It's got the highest poverty level and unemployment level. I mean, it doesn't have the resources, and so it suffers in everything that they assess. And the college was looking to see why students weren't graduating. And so when they looked at their data, they found that it was largely attributed to the fact that they were not passing the Intro to Math course, because that was the foundation for every major at the institution. And so they decided their QEP was going to be to revamp the math course so that it would be applicable to every major. So they pulled faculty from all over the institution, and they redid the syllabus, they redid the course objectives, they retrained the faculty, they retrained the tutors, they bought new stuff for the learning lab. And within one semester, grades had improved 42%, and retention had improved about the same level in one semester. That's the kind of project that we want to see, that you're doing something to help students learn. That process was so successful that the same institution did the same thing with their anatomy and physiology course, because it was the weed out course for all of the nursing and allied health programs. So we have some institutions, I think Middle Tennessee State has students read a book before they get there, and in every class that they take, they talk about that book as it relates to the subject matter, in that particular course. So that's something on which you'll be working while the application's been reviewing. Your application cannot go forward if you are not in compliance with the standards that you had to respond to. So we're not going to let you fail. We're going to keep giving you information, and you're going to keep giving us back information until we feel that you're ready to go. Our board will then act upon it. We'll have the committee who will come in, and at that point, they'll look at the rest of the standards that were not in the original application and the quality enhancement plan. And at that point, we'll make a recommendation for full membership. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
There's another one out there.
Yeah, so we have yet another question over here, so great stuff. Go ahead, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Nyambi Hall Campbell. I'm in the psychology department. My question, I actually have two questions. The first is about transfer of credits. When we were the College of the Bahamas, one of the things that was the pride of the College of the Bahamas is that our credits transferred basically everywhere. Like, I know my sister, she was able to get all of her credits transferred. And then I know of late, students of mine have had problems getting their credits transferred, and that's after having transitioned to University of the Bahamas. So I'm wondering how much of a role accreditation will play in the transfer of credits, and is that more of a situation around economics and schools really just wanting you to pay to take the courses over once you get there to their schools? So that's the first question. And then the second...
Can we do the first question, because some of our memories
Sure.
could fade us? Because that's a very important question. And I have experience in it because we have about almost 100 students, Bahamian students at MTSU now. In my first 5 or 6 years as president, I think we'd have 3 or 4. Now it is exploded about 100, and a lot of them are transferring from UB to MTSU. And so on the issue of the transfer credit, it has to do again with SAC standards about quality. Obviously, one of the advantages of being accredited by SACS is typically when you submit, the students submit the transcript, and it shows from an accredited institution, that gives them a leg up to begin with. Then the second process is that the department will take a look at the nature of the curriculum, the course, if there is some question about that. And I think what some of your students might be experiencing is that when they kind of describe what the course is, either through the catalog or whatever, it doesn't match up with the particular course or level, whether it's a upper division level or lower division. But generally, we have not experience a lot of problems, at least at MTSU, with students transferring from UB. In fact, some of our best students are transfer from UB or a part of the university. So, and that number is significant. So that's the personal experience here.
I'd like to weigh in on this, if you don't mind. We really don't want our students to transfer out to MTSU.
I do. It helps my enrollment. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm going to go back a little bit. I want to say that if we go back 15 years or so, we still had a lot of agreements with other universities where students were only staying 2 years intentionally, and they were transferring their credits to complete their degree. We know that the past is not our future. That is not what we want to do. What we want to do is intensify study abroad programs, student exchange programs, where we keep our students all the way to their graduation, but that we can say to Bahamians, come to the University of the Bahamas and see the world. So we look forward to do that. The issue of transfer credits is very useful because the accreditation allows us to say, you know, you can take a semester in your program. Generally, the third year is a good time to do a study abroad for 1 semester and come back and take your final credits at home, and it's recognized mutually. So I want to be clear that the issue of transfer of credits is really important on the study abroad student exchanges. And finally, I want to say it's also degree recognition, so which is, you know, undergraduate to graduate. But for the most part, I'd just like to invite every faculty member, every staff member in this room, when our students come, our goal is to graduate them. Remember that. We graduate our students. That's the goal. Thank you.
Yeah, and that is a very important point. The other thing is that we have over about 1,000 students at MTSU that do study abroad. And when they come to whatever institution, and a lot go internationally, to your point, President Harder, if you want you accredited, it really takes the question out of that student's decision to come and study abroad. Now, I need to clarify that when it was COB, when you offer associate degrees, and we encourage our community college students to stay and get the associate degree because we have shown, research has shown, is once they complete the associate degree, they do a better job of graduating and the retention. But we still would like to have as many students as possible.
Just to put a pin in it, this is my 50th year in higher ed, and 50 years ago, institutions were concerned about their budgets and enrollments. Because there is such a strong need to get people into the workforce more quickly, we have many more articulation agreements and credentialing programs and things that get students out of college faster. And if they don't have to repeat courses, that's better for both the institution and the student. So I don't think that you'll see that being a reason for holding up transfer. It is still an institutional prerogative, however, you know, which credits they accept. And so I do encourage you, as the University of the Bahamas, to look at some of those articulation agreements with some of our institutions, you know, so that students can more easily transfer here as well as back there. If you, I mean, because life will move people around, and while you don't want to lose them, and I don't want you to lose them, you know, some of them may have to go take care of family someplace else, or, you know, find a major that's not there, but they'll start with you, get a great foundation, and then, you know, transfer someplace else.
Thank you.
Okay, part 2, please.
Okay, so the second question is, how much experience does SACS have working with institutions where the institution is really like the only institution in the country? Not to say that the University of the Bahamas doesn't have competitors, but in regards to like the example you used in Mississippi or whatever, like there are other universities in Mississippi. There aren't really other universities in the University of the Bahamas. So we kind of catch everybody that's coming in, and how does that, you know, uniqueness or that structure, how does that play out in SACS, and do you have examples of institutions where that is the reality as well?
That's a very good question. We don't have any institutions that are the only ones in their state, like you all are the only ones here. We do have specialized institutions. We have an acupuncture school that is the only one of its kind that I think has 20 students. We don't care how many competitors you have. We want to know what you do and what you provide and how well you do it. So even if there are 75 institutions against which you're competing, we want to know what your success rate is, and what it is that you're doing. So while we have one set of standards that we use to evaluate all 781 of our institutions, we look at it based on your mission and who you say you are and what you're going to do. Now, having said that, we have schools in very rural areas where they're the only game in town. And so we do try to ensure that they're meeting the needs of their students, just like we would want to make sure that you're meeting the needs of your students. But the fact that you're the only one doesn't matter. We have historically minority-serving institutions that have students come to them who are maybe not be as academically prepared as there are students at other institutions, and we look to see, okay, here's that percentage of students, but what are you doing to make sure that they are successful? So the fact that you're the only game in town is not going to help or hurt, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So if I may, I'll just step into the moderator role now. I would just want to add a sentence or two to that response, Dr. Whelan, and that is, one of the focus of the whole criteria of analysis, of analyzing what we do, is our mission. And within the Bahamas, the fact that we are this entity that serves this major role in terms of nation building, part of what we should be demonstrating through our submission and through what we do, as a matter of fact, is how we contribute to nation building. I think one of those things for me is really, how to, and the President Horta said this, graduation rate. So how many students do we graduate? Because keep in mind that we don't build a nation by having students in here. We build a nation by putting quality students out there. So those are things that we can demonstrate and show that as these institutions, the role that we play within the country, we are fulfilling that role. And we can show that and prove that to the evaluators on a site visit or on an application review. All right, so I've got the left aisle clear and the right aisle clear. So should we make a last call? Before we do, I have another question for the panel. If you don't ask questions, I will. All right? So, Dr. Whelan, you mentioned earlier, you mentioned earlier how SACS works with an institution through its application process, through its initial review process, in preparing for the visit, et cetera. And correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is once that visit is complete and that visit report is made, there are two potential outcomes from that visit report. One is positive and one is not so positive.
Yes.
Is that correct? And if it's not so positive, then we start over, yeah? I make the point then, she's nodding her head yes. The point being, we're gonna do everything within our power to ensure that that submission that we make is right where a submission should be, and we're not trying to find some way to get past this little thing that we're weak on. This is an opportunity for us to identify the parts of the university for which we want to improve those, and let that be a part of the submission, rather than hoping that no one notices that we don't do X or we don't do Y. So I just wanted to put that in there. I think that adds value to what this is and why we're doing this process, and how this process, at the end of the day, makes for a better University of the Bahamas, which means that at some point when I get rolled into the hospital and I look up, I see the student who didn't get the D, you know what I mean? I will look up and see the student that got the A. So with that in mind, I think this helps me, all right? So, you want to say, yeah? So with that then, I'll turn it over to the president. Oh, you have sorry, my apologies. Last question, go for it, please.
Good afternoon, Ziad Kalma, School of English Studies. I have one simple question. How near are we to the finish line? Do we know?
I knew someone was going to ask that. I was just thought, wow, we're going to get through this without that question. It's a very good question. You're very close.
there is no finish line because, I mean, there are stages through which to go, but it's a continuous improvement process. So I hope you never get to the finish line from that standpoint. But I'm sure you're asking about the application process.
That's my
Yeah.
yes. I was referring to the application process. Now you still have some hurdles, and I said that earlier in my comments to you. You do have a few hurdles that you have to get over, and that's not unusual. We have a few hurdles that, and we have been accredited. This is our third 10-year reaffirmation, and so. I told Dr. Whelan and the group yesterday that the fourth one, I'm not going to be around for that because it is, I don't care how many times you've gone through the process, it's a very rigorous process and it requires a complete dedication. Nothing is wrong with that, but we learn a lot from it. But to the application, truly, significant progress has been made, and I just encourage you all to continue to put the metal to the pedal or the pedal to the metal.
And what comes after the application process?
After the application comes in, then a committee comes to visit, and our board will vote, and you'll have what we call candidacy status. At that point, there's some additional requirements, the quality enhancement plan being one of them, to which you must demonstrate compliance. Then it goes back to the board, and you're granted full membership. That's when I would suggest you celebrate every step of the way. Truly, I mean, with a party of some sort, Madam Provost, because you all have worked, like I said, you worked your fannies off. You deserve to celebrate. In 5 years, you will have to do this again. You will have to do the compliance certification and the entire compliance certification. And then it'll be 10 years after that before you have to do it again. However, at that 5-year point between those 10, we have a, how's it been going for you? What we call the 5th year report, and where do you think you're headed next? So that it gives you an opportunity to see, you know, where things may have fallen apart, you know, where you've gotten stronger, and to not have to wait so long close to the process to push everybody.
Okay, thank you.
But it's an ongoing
It's
process.
a continuous
Okay.
learning, continuous improvement. And you don't want to get in the position where you feel, wow, we finished with accreditation, we can go back to business as usual. It's a continuous process, and that's why SACS has the 5th year review. We've gone through it 2 times in my tenure, and now we're going through the 3rd full review. So,
And we do have a requirement that you be in compliance with all standards at all times. So if something hits the media that has, you know, says that you're out of compliance, we'll come back in and say, whoa, Nellie, what's going on? You know, you got to fix this one. So it is an ongoing, all the time kind of thing.
I just want to add to that. On this continuous improvement journey, faculty, what we're doing is these assessments are now a way of life. Every semester, we're looking at the courses that we're teaching, and we're looking for ways to improve. This is not going to be, I like how Dr. Davis would say, it's not a journey that ends at a certain point, but it's a continuous journey. And we're always looking for ways to improve and to do better at what we do. We're never at perfection. There's always improvement to be had.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to give the last word to the president.
Well, my last word is going to be a very big thank you. I want to start by thanking the members of this community, maybe start by where I began this morning. You know, this has been an incredibly exciting, difficult, challenging journey for at least 18 months. And for the last certainly 12 months, we've had teams working across this campus under Dr. Oriaki's leadership in the academic area, under Dr. Davis's leadership in all of the other areas. I'm looking at some of my colleagues, some of the VPs here, student affairs, IT, everyone, the leadership team, all the middle managers, all your staff. You know, it's been a lot of work that everyone has been doing. And I guess I'm really hoping that you do see it as not just, oh gosh, that work's done, I've written that narrative, but as part of all of us learning together. You know, part of us learning together about what do we do? Do we do it this way? What could we do better? And that we get into the habit of feeling comfortable, always revisiting what we've done and looking for ways to make it better. But I want to start by thanking all of you, again, staff, faculty, managers, directors, and all the unions who've collaborated in this process. You know, we're a community. Doesn't mean we agree all the time, and sometimes we can be a little fractious. We're a community, and we're building this together, and we're going to keep doing this together. So thank you. Give yourselves a hand. I also want to thank Dr. Davis and Dr. Oriaki, who kind of are standard bearers on accreditation. And I know that Dr. Oriaki started last year with her Let's Talk Accreditation. Was it lunch or dinner? Or... I do know, however, that the good thing about Dr. Oriaki is sometimes when she does an event, you know, she's got a full staff of good entertainment going on there, so she can make it a lot of fun. I do thank her, and I thank the deans and the faculty who've worked with her. We started, you know, last October when our reviewers looked at some of the faculty student assessments, and I don't know if they see some of the deans in the room, but I think, oh, I see one of them shaking her head. No, she had fun doing that, didn't you, Dr. Mickelwey? And so I want to thank Dr. Oriaki for the work that's been done in academic affairs, and I want to thank Dr. Danny Davis, who doesn't remember the template? Right, do y'all remember the templates? You're going to use this template and the training that went in with the staff and all of the directors and the mid-managers and getting your annual plans and annual reports. I think they have been stellar leaders of this process, and I say that because they have to keep doing it for a little while yet, so I want to make sure that, you know, they're feeling good and strong, and we're very grateful for their work. I also want to thank the exceptional contribution we've had from Dr. McPhee, Dr. Cardell, and Dr. Whelan. Do you have any idea just how few people get to have those 3 people on stage at the same time, one of whom ought to be on vacation, so they can tell us how to do what we're doing? I've been in the university business for a very long time, and I don't think I could remember a single occasion when an institution has had the benefit of the kind of expertise, contribution, listening ear, and advice that we've had from those 3 outstanding people. And please, I just would like us to give an enormous thank you. Thank you. And let us go make the world a better place, starting today, as we continue our journey. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.